I'm just searching about this morning. Jailed Guatemalan Ex-President points finger at U.S. Days after a judge sent him to jail, the former Guatemala President Otto Perez Molina maintains his innocence, suggesting the U.S. may have played a role in the case that landed him behind bars. There are many things behind this. In an exclusive interview Wednesday. It's not only what you saw in the hearing, there's a series of interests of another type, I would say including geopolitical interests, not only in Guatemala, but extending to Honduras and El Salvador. He resigned from his post last week after lawmakers stripped him of the immunity that would have protected him from prosecution, shortly after he found himself in custody. In jail, Guatemala's Attorney General and a UN investigating commission accused Perez Molina and a group of close aides with receiving bribes in exchange for lowering taxes for companies seeking to import products into the Central American country. And he denied the accusations, adding they had been steps leading up to his resignation and arrest mirrored the steps of a soft coup forcing him from power. We've seen this many times. U.S. interference. Top U.S. officials, he said, repeatedly tried to pressure his government to renew the mandate of the United Nations International Commission Against Impunity in Guatemala, known as the CICIG. The Commission, a special independent body of prosecutors, is now helping lead the charge against Molina. A treaty-level agreement between Guatemala and the UN, signed in 2006, gives the Commission special power to investigate a limited number of sensitive cases. Molina told the case against him is politically motivated, and it's no coincidence that it came to a head last week. The former president said he was getting ready to boot the UN Commission from his country. The CICG has been an instrument that has served others, but not to strengthen justice. He said today, the CICG, we see it really as an interference of the U.S., who were the ones who most pressured for it. So I responded to the interference of the U.S., who are the ones who are practically ordering the commissioner here. The State Department spokesperson did not immediately respond, of course, for comments. The UN Commission has been praised for tackling a number of high-profile cases in Guatemala, helping prosecutors take steps to crack down on organized crime and combat impunity. But even before his arrest, Molina was critical of the group. He asked God for strength. You're going to need it. Wearing blue jeans and a polo shirt, he's in a court. The reporter talked to him in the military jail. He defended himself, said history will be the judge. These are difficult, hard, complicated moments, but there are millions of Guatemalans who have been served well during the last 3 years, 8 months. These are complicated days of lots of feelings, a lot of internal debate, of looking how things have been happening. Not just now, this started months ago. They orchestrated these things so that it would lead to this. It's a difficult and complicated moment. We are asking God for strength. He's described himself as a victim of unjust accusations, arguing he would have admitted wrongdoing if he were guilty. No. Here's from Telsur. Same. See, there he is with him. Obama's with him. Got that. The U.S. has intervened in Guatemala by way of the UN Internal Commission Agency. Commission Against Impunity in Guatemala, former president said. There's a link solid shit. It's saying the same thing as before in the article. And there's who he is. Said the British news agency said Barack Obama began imposing conditions on a plan to boost the economies of Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. Told Perez Molina that if he didn't approve extending the mandate of the CICIG, Guatemala would not get any of the funds linked to the U.S. $20 billion plan to increase jobs, infrastructure, and boost the economy in order to reduce migration to the U.S. It's saying the same shit as the other one there. So here it says Guatemala dodges a guerrilla bullet. So they had their election. The first round of presidential voting in Guatemala is over, and the winner is Guatemala itself. The winner, let's see, 70% of the registered voters cast ballots. It's the highest figure in 30 years in Guatemala. It's also larger than any seen in a U.S. presidential election since 1900. As it happens, U.S. media had openly derided the incoming elections, given the sordid melodrama. Guatemala is having an election today, but who cares? Was the headline at allmediani.com. Let's see. Jimmy Morales, former comedian, won the first round. He finished ahead of the two insider candidates by a substantial margin. The two insiders, meaning politicians with whom the political class would feel comfortable. You know what that means. Our former frontrunner Manuel Badizon and former First Lady Sandra Torres. Oh shit. Who in 2011 divorced her husband, Ex-President Alvaro Colon, in order to be eligible to succeed him. Comedian takes out first round of Guatemalan presidential elections. Jimmy Morales. I guess that's how you say it. Former comedian turned politician, leads the presidential race with 24% of the votes. Will face former First Lady Sandra Torres of the National Unity of Hope Party in the October 25th runoff. It's pretty interesting. And this is why the two leading candidates for Guatemala's presidency came to the U.S. to campaign. The two frontrunners likely headed to October's runoff have campaigned here in the U.S., in L.A. and D.C., even though expat Guatemalans can't vote. Why? Campaigning in other countries is an odd tactic, especially considering that 1.5 million Guatemalans living abroad, 87% of whom reside in the U.S., don't have the right to vote. It's widespread practice for politicians from migrant-sending countries. In their last presidential elections, Mexican candidates visited L.A., New York, and Chicago. Migrants might not vote, but they are seen to influence those back home. That makes sense. And here we go about the refugees from Syria. Should the U.S. increase the number of refugees it resettles? Says two officials and a congressional aide said that Secretary of State John Kerry told members of Congress in a private meeting that the U.S. will boost its worldwide quota from 70,000 to 75,000 next year, and that number could rise. A fraction of those would be from Syria. Well, I guess not all Syrian refugees in general. Experts are calling the refugee crisis the worst since the Rwanda genocide more than 20 years ago. I heard that somewhere the other day. I forget where. Shit. I guess that's it. He didn't give specifics on the number of refugees the U.S. may resettle, but here he says that. Okay. Here it says, John Kerry, United States committed to accepting more Syrian refugees. Civil war in Syria's ass. We all know it ain't a civil war. We are committed to increasing the number of refugees we take, and we are looking hard at a number that we can specifically manage with respect to the crisis in Syria that they created, and Europe, that's being vetted fully right now, and I think at the appropriate time we'll have a better sense of what exactly that number will be. In Congress, Republican Senator and Chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, Bob Corker, and Senator McCain both called on the administration to do more about the crisis. How about stop fucking bombing their countries? Corker insisted that the U.S. bears part of the responsibility for the Civil War and needs to make accommodations for the millions of fleeing refugees. McCain claims Obama is now experiencing a crisis of conscience and is being forced to act, which he should have done long before. He added that the officials should stop calling them migrants. They are refugees. See, it's caught on. They're fucking refugees. They're fleeing a war zone. They're not migrants. They're not looking for work. They're fleeing for their lives. You see there about the little 3-year-old drowned. Like I saw this morning, there's how many kids have died already? And here's from The Guardian. We asked all 22 presidential candidates to define U.S. refugee policy. Few had clear answers. They asked how they would confront shocking realities from abroad in the midst of a campaign charged by immigration. Just 2 called for taking on more refugees. Who were they? Former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley and Scott Walker. Of course, he says, no more refugees. Oh, and Hillary says, so we should too. Clinton addressed the crisis more broadly, calling it heartbreaking, while urging more action across the globe to alleviate the flow of refugees into Europe. Stop bombing them, fuckers. Say anything to get fucking elected. Motherfuckers. Like it fucking matters if you vote any fucking way. Here, Hillary says U.S. should lead the effort to help Syrian migrants. Fuck, I ain't got but another minute. As Pope Francis reminded us, this is an international problem that demands international response. That's who we are and that's what we do. And we also create the fucking problem. Obama to propose higher refugee limits for Syrians. I'll leave links to all this shit. I'm about out of time. U.S. to take more refugees, but not necessarily Syrians. Cook Dices reports Russia in the Syria mix. And look, U.S. dedicates a U.S. embassy to the Holy See. The newly renovated building provides a secure modern workspace for the embassy staff and incorporates various systems. Hey, good for them. Well, yay. Not. All peace and love. See you later. Bye.